Planet Vero Studio is powered by the Nolan Group of eXp Realty. MyNextHomeFinder.com.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
Hey, everybody. We're here.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm David Jack here.
And I'm Susan Keller-Horn.
And you're listening and watching Yak About Today in Film, where you never know where the show will go, and that's the other opening. Anyway, here's the show. Anyway, here's our opening.
Yes.
Hey, again, I'm David Jack here with Susan Keller-Horn, and thanks for listening. Now we're going to look that way.
Yes, we're going to look at each other.
We're going to look at each other for...
So what everybody has to realize is that we normally wear headphones. But
That's
today,
right.
Since we don't have a guest coming in, we decided not to wear headphones. So we didn't hear any of the opening. We had no idea you guys were ready for us, and we weren't ready for you. But we're here now.
So if you're watching, why don't you just go back? Not go back. Why don't you just start watching it this right now? Because that's when we'll start talking.
Yes.
So anyway, okay, I can't keep a straight face here.
I know.
So the festival is over.
Yes.
And it was a success.
It was great. We
It
had
was a
such a good
great
time.
festival. We've learned an enormous amount,
Yeah.
from doing the festival.
Oh, well, we're already in planning stages, and we are going to be having a grand time planning for next year, making it even bigger, better, more categories perhaps. We're going to be talking to all our volunteers, having our volunteer get together about where they think we need to make changes and where we went well. And but it was fun. It was such a fun festival.
It was so funny because people know that this was once called the Vero Beach Wine and Film Festival.
Right.
And the only reason we did take out the wine is because we wanted to concentrate or have people sort of know it was a film festival first. And I have to tell you, I thought we served cases and cases and cases of wine, right?
Yes.
And one of the comments when I was, that we were getting, because, and by the way, if you have feedback, send it right here on our Facebook page, because that helps us, define how we're going to move forward. But one of the most interesting feedbacks we've gotten is I was slightly disappointed that they did not serve wine at every one of the venues. And, we had done that in the past.
We had.
Right?
We definitely had.
And apparently it was a great success, but I was under the impression, and maybe because I was new here, that, as long as we supplied an abundance of wine, we had wine tastings, and we had a VIP room that was filled with really great wines. All our parties had a lot of great wine. So I was under the impression that we really did live up to the whole wine part of the festival, except people were used to tasting in between films.
Yes, but you know what? I don't think we had less wine. I think that we had just as much wine as we'd had in the past. We just didn't serve it in all the same places.
Right.
So it also requires a ton more volunteers when we serve wine at every venue, because we need to have people who are pouring. We still need to have people who are letting people into the theater, calculating all the ballots. It takes more people. And after not having a festival for 3 years, we physically could not have served wine at every single venue. But we had wine at least more than half our venues. We had it at the Heritage Center.
Right.
We had it at the Women's Club.
Yes, lots of wine at the
Women's Club. We served lots of wine at the Edgewood Eatery. We served tons of wine. The Women's Club, that was That was the best wine. That was, thank you, Harvey Cornix. That wine was incredible. It was so good.
You know, it's so funny. We were speaking about wine and speaking about Harvey. And yes, thank you, Harvey. But it was so funny because we had actually designed that room as a VIP room, a VIP lounge where people can come and sort of have some wine while they're waiting for the next film. And you know, we would sit around, and remember Anthony Rufo on our board was sort of the caretaker of the Women's Center.
Yes, he was.
And I'd be walking in there, and it was so funny because I'd be sitting and we'd be talking, and then a couple of people would walk in, they'd sit down and pour them wine, and all of a sudden you'd hear this whisper, "I heard you had special wine."
It's true. I was telling everybody.
And it was so funny. It was like this enormous secret, you know, that there was that everybody knew, by the way, an enormous secret, right? And you'd sit there, and then people would walk into the kitchen where we kept all the wines. And even in the kitchen, people would sort of whisper to one another and go, "They're requesting the special wine." Right. And sure enough, we brought it out. And I'm not sure if people actually could tell the difference between. We had good wines in general.
We did really have very good wines. But let me tell you something. Those wines were special. They really were. And if you couldn't tell, it's because you're not a wine drinker.
That's right.
Because if you're a wine drinker, wow, they were amazing. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't believe it. And we called the place the Hidden Cellar. So it was a secret. We kind of maybe kept it as a secret for too many people because I think a lot of people didn't realize. So for next year, if you are coming to the festival, if you are a sponsor, if you are a VIP cinema pass holder, or if you are a filmmaker, you get into the Hidden Lounge. Now this year we offered at the very last minute, but I don't think anybody realized it, an ability to buy just a pass for the Hidden Lounge. I think it was $100. Next year, I'm not sure if we'll be doing that because I think we're going to have a lot more people attending and we won't be able to sell extras of that. But you want to have access to the Hidden Lounge next year. And it's at the Women's Club. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. So that was...
But it wasn't, you know...
It was a favorite place.
It was a favorite place. And, you know, there's so much activity around a festival. You know, there's really all the films, there are venues and everything's going on. And there's so much in the Heritage Center and people buying tickets and walking from place to place. It really was, it was quiet in there. I mean, yes, we were quiet because the other half of the Women's Center, we were showing our films.
It's the Women's Club. The Women's Club,
oh,
please.
I am so sorry. So the Women's Club, since 1913 or something like that.
Yes, it's an amazing place.
Historical place. But it was, even for the volunteers and for us, it was a place to like go, oh, you know, because it really, I'm not sure people understand.
Take a break.
You know, when you do 4 days like this, and the 4 days go from 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight, you know, with movies and events and one after another. And I know we're making a lot of this, of the Hidden Lounge, but it's such a wonderful place to take a break. And that's why we use it as an incentive for everybody to buy the VIP tickets.
Oh, well, you know, what's really cool about it, too, is it's not even just about the wine there. Right. It's about the filmmakers there. And you're getting an opportunity to sit with them in a relaxed spot and either talk about their film or, hey, you want to make a film. And you go to them and you start saying, well, what did you do? How did you do that? And then also we had the Filmmaker Forums. So we had a documentary filmmaker forum and a narrative filmmaker forum. And at those forums, they were opportunities for the filmmakers to get together, but anybody could attend them. You didn't have to be a filmmaker. They had an opportunity to get together, talk about how they'd finance their film, talk about what equipment they're using or why they're using this or how they'd get their music. And those filmmaker forums were so special that I know we are actually planning on getting more of that type of thing going forward for us to, because the film festival isn't just going to be about the one time a year. We are more about education. We're more about having other events that talk to filmmakers, that get our community involved. We want to do events that will get other nonprofits involved. So we're going to be a year-round organization.
Right. And I think you just nailed it, and something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. It's the rationale behind the filmmaker is that about the festival is it's got to serve the community, right?
Yes.
But it is a film festival, and it's got to serve the filmmakers that make the films in the film festival, right? So we have sort of two different missions, that sort of come together. Vero benefits from the film festival, and we want the film festival to benefit more and more organizations.
Right.
Because I think we talked about it. We've talked about it a lot. We need the non-for-profits in Vero Beach, right? Should all be helping one another.
Yes.
Right? We help one another grow, and we help one another benefit the community as a whole.
Yep.
So it's almost like we've designed this to integrate into the community. And, I know since I've been involved, having discussions with all the different not-for-profits or charities or whatever, made me realize that our film festival, yes, it benefits Vero because we bring art to the film festival. But
it's a wonderful cultural event.
Exactly. It's a wonderful cultural event, but it should also benefit the other organizations. That by partnering, we can do a lot together. So I think when we look at year-round, we not only look at year-round because we have to have benefits, we have to raise money.
Correct.
So we'll do our white party. We may even maybe give it away now that we may do a black and white ball.
Ooh, the gala.
Right? Which was first done by the way, by Truman Capote in the 60s in Manhattan. He threw the black and white ball, and it was the first of its kind where everybody just dressed to the T's. Now they do it regularly, like the museum, whatever it was, right? And it was the event. People were calling it the event of the century back then.
Well, we're going to make ours the event of the century.
That's right.
Although we have lots of events of the century. I mean, if you haven't been following us and you see what we've done, it's been amazing. But I do think we need to take a break right now. And we are totally not having the conversation we originally talked about having. So when we come back, why don't we talk about what we originally talked about, which was I wanted to interview David about his past and how how his past really integrates into the film festival. And I want you to get to know David. So we'll be right back.
They say a good contractor is hard to find until they find us. Hi, this is Greg, owner of Workhorse Residential Contractor. If you've got a job to do, call Workhorse. We can remodel your whole home, your bathroom, your kitchen, or even just put a fresh coat of paint on whatever you need. We'll give you a fair price, and we always show up on time. We're not handyman, we're licensed and insured contractors. We serve up to Sebastian and down to Fort Pierce. If you've got a job to do, call Workhorse. Find us on Facebook, Workhorse Residential Contractor.
Summer is here, and it's a great time to create your outdoor room at Sunshine Furniture. Now, during our July clearance sale, you can save an additional 10% on all in-stock patio furniture from Lloyd Flanders, Woodard, Windward, Beechcraft, Pollywood, Berlin Gardens, and more. We're the outdoor furniture experts and have anything you need, all built to withstand the Florida elements, and we also specialize in cushions, umbrellas, outdoor rugs, and fire pits. For inside, we have the largest selection of coastal sofas, sleeper sofas, dining sets, recliners, and bedroom groups in light and airy coastal colors by Four Seasons, Capri, and Universal, including a gallery of Tommy Bahama. Come in now for our July sale, including 50% off all pictures, lamps, and accessories. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in the Publix Plaza, Vero Beach. Visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com. Also, don't forget our outlet and sales center right across the street.
Sunshine Furniture.
Dr. Stephen Tate offers the safest and most efficient technique for customized cataract surgery. Patients are personally counseled on the best approach for their needs and lifestyle. From multifocal lenses that allow for distance and reading vision to toric lenses that correct astigmatism, let New Vision Eye Center guide you safely through your options. For world-class eye care on the Treasure Coast, visit newvisioneyecenter.com.
And we're back. I'm David Jack here. I'm here with Susan Keller-Horn, and you're listening to Yak About Today. What I did want to start, I know you have plans to make me tell things about myself,
I'm gonna make
but
you
I did
tell it
want
all.
to start. One of the feedback that we got that was so great is we started doing the podcast about, a couple of months before the festival.
Right.
And the purpose was of this particular show that we're doing now is to interview the filmmakers, find out about them, find out about their films. And this was something that the filmmakers really, really loved. And when we were thinking, we just closed down the festival, and we knew we had to keep the podcast going as we developed the festival for 23. So we're first starting to line up our filmmakers and people who are in the business to start doing the interviews, and hopefully we'll be starting to do that next week.
Yes,
We've
we have
lined
a few
up some
people lined up, and we'll be doing it weekly. Sometimes we'll be taping about 3 or 4 in a row. Sometimes we will be doing them every week, and it depends on our travel schedule and who's in town and that sort of thing. But we do have people lined up to interview. It won't just be David and me in the future.
Right. And I think, because we're going into planning now, it makes you sort of, think in advance of what we want to do with the podcast. So we want to talk to filmmakers. I think what we were doing is talking about filmmakers who were in the festival. We talked about who they were. We talked about their, their vision for film.
And their project that they were showing at the festival.
But
yes.
I think for me, it'd really be interesting in addition, especially since we're going to have a space before we start choosing our new films. And I think you're opening up film selection in October or September.
Probably early October, maybe September. We have to sit down and talk about, our categories and make some, decisions. Do we keep everything the same? Do we make some changes? Are there other things happening in the industry that we need to reflect? So we're going to be talking about that through August, and hopefully we can open up submissions in September or possibly October.
And what I'm hoping that we do is people, I'm not sure people understand what goes into making films. And I'm not talking about the big films. We're not talking Jurassic Park or even the Netflix series and films. But there's so much that goes into these films. And these, for the most part, younger filmmakers usually are begging their friends to play a role or begging their parents for money or trying to raise money. And they're working sort of all day, all night. And I think, and I'd love when we interview some of our filmmakers for them to tell us the story of not just about the film and, the reason that they created the film, but process. I think our audience
David,
would love.
you know what you're doing? You were avoiding having me ask anything about you. That is what is happening right now.
You notice I'm looking at the clock?
Yes, I am. I am noticing you're looking at the clock, which
Jesse,
is over there.
Is it over yet?
And now we have very little time for you to talk about you.
Yeah. Just keep talking.
But, so I can't start with when you were born because we don't have enough time.
That's right.
But why don't we... because, people know of you from your advertising background, but let's talk a little bit about from your theater background and what you've done in theater.
Oh, it's interesting. So, you're right. Most people know because I created one of the first of the internet marketing companies way back in the early 90s, that was the reputation and what people knew of me. But I actually started the career in theater. I went to graduate school. I studied theater. And I started directing. I started directing in California, and I had a specialty of German avant-garde pieces. And I had directed one in Santa Barbara. It was called Caspar, and it was written by a playwright called Peter Handke. And I was the first one to really start directing his plays. And last year, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature after all these years, right? But I brought it to New York, and what happened is I opened up an off-Broadway theater with this, and it was so well reviewed, and the New Yorker was calling it one of the best off-Broadway plays, and I got discovered, literally, like right out of old Hollywood. There was a gentleman, his name was Ned Sharon, who was my mentor for many, many years. He's no longer with us, and he had created a show that he was doing on Broadway called Side by Side by Sondheim, right? And he came to me and he said, "That's the best directing I have seen." Lieber and Stoller, the music makers who wrote Hound Dog and all that 100 number one song, said, "I'm doing my next musical I'm doing in London. I want you to co-write it with me and co-direct it with me." So I sat in Joe Allen's, a theater restaurant, right? I said yes. I packed up that weekend and I moved to London.
That is amazing.
Right? And we had a big success. It was called Only in America. And from that, I was directing a lot of small plays. I directed a bunch of I worked on a whole series called Song by Song, based on Side by Side by Sondheim. Anyway, that career sort of just ballooned really quickly. I was very lucky. I ended up with a couple of television shows. And also, I directed a really great show, I forgot, called Noel up in Goodspeed Opera House, the Goodspeed Opera House. But early on, the interesting thing about television and theater is you wait a very long time to get these projects on. So if I had directed my first show in 1976, it was 1979, 1980, when all of a sudden I was still waiting for the next project. And that's when, I still have 3 minutes here. I'm trying to push this. When I realized that it was hard. It was hard to get your next project. You'd write your proposals and you'd write scripts and, you'd talk about directing a new play.
And I don't think any of that has changed.
No.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're doing a play. Exactly. It doesn't matter whether you're doing a film. You're sitting and waiting for the phone to ring or your email to ding or something. Exactly.
And, until you reach a certain level where you just want it, and you finish a project and they want you on the next project. But this was just slow. I had a lot of successes, but I hadn't reached the point where, I was getting the calls every single day. And that's when I actually made the jump into advertising. And it was for the most ridiculous reason.
What was that?
I used to build little computers as a hobby in the 70s. I'd go to Tandy or Radio Shack, or what it was called, and I'd buy these pieces, and I'd buy little things, and I'd program them. And it was just a hobby. And voila, one day, the head of a department in an advertising agency comes to me and said, "Do you know anything about tech?" And I said, "Sure. What do you want to know?" Anyway, next thing I know, I was working in an advertising agency, and the rest is history, I guess.
The rest is history. And we don't have time to discuss why and how you got to Vero Beach or how you're involved with the film festival, but you did something in London, though. I want to go back to your theater stuff. Uh-huh. There was a play you did in London that had a different name, but if you mention the name that was in the U.S., what play was that again? So
the musical I directed and co-wrote was Only in America. And 10 years later, it came to the U.S. as Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Wow. And if you co-wrote it, this is stuff that happens in the industry. How did you not have any ownership of it?
So contractually, back then, first of all, I knew nothing from, some lawyer drew up the agreement. And because it was a strung together musical, that the story was told through the music, right? So what we actually did, it didn't take much dialogue, but what it did take is orchestrating and laying out the songs so they would tell the story. So it was sort of back-to-back songs, and we told the story. When it came to America, they rejiggered the story and told it in a different way using the same music. Okay. So I would have had a right if they had used the same lineup and the same story line, even though I was only contractually in London. So I didn't get.
All right. Well, our
that.
time is up.
Aha!
You don't have to talk about yourself anymore.
Anyway, that's all about me. Next week we interview her.
No, I don't have a
one.
big story. I just like film.
Oh yeah. By the way, we're doing a film festival next year.
Next year, we're doing a film festival, but there's
we
lots of
thought
stuff happening in between.
That's right. There'll be a few things.
So keep following us. We'll keep you updated and let you know what's happening. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.